Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the group exhibit Hydrogen Fuel Cells and Batteries here on Hannover Fair 2014. We will have the next 40 minutes a panel discussion about 50 hydrogen refueling stations for Germany, and they will be in Germany by 2015, which is next year. So that's going to be quite interesting, the discussion we will have here. And you can participate, of course, whenever you want. Just raise your hand and ask your questions or participate in that discussion. I would like to introduce to you my panelists here. Right on the opposite side is Thorsten Herbert. He is Program Manager Transportation of NOW, the National Organization of Hydrogen Fuel Cell Technology. I would like to welcome Markus Bachmeier, just next to him. He's Head of Hydrogen Solutions and Advanced Customer Applications of the Linde Group. I would like to say hello to Schnell, who is sitting next to Mr. Bachmeier, Head of Sustainable Development and New Energies of Total Deutschland GmbH and Chairman of the Clean Energy Partnership. And next to me is Thomas Brachmann, sitting Chief Project Engineer, Automobile Engineering and Research of Honda R&D Europe. So whenever you have a question to my panelists, just raise your hand. Would like to begin with Mr. Herbert. The National Organization Hydrogen Fuel Cell Technology, the NOW, was established to coordinate and manage the programs for the market preparation of products and applications in the areas of hydrogen, fuel cells and battery electric drive technology. Why both? You know, if we have fuel cell cars, why do we need battery cars anymore? Tell us.
Yeah, so I think it's obvious if Europe, or respectively Germany, wants to fulfill the ambitious CO2 reduction goals, it's 95% by 2050, so more or less decarbonized transport system. I think it's obvious that we need to follow all possible tracks that deliver us with zero emission mobility, and that's, as of today, fuel cell electric mobility and battery electric mobility, and that's why we are focusing on both technologies there.
Can we say that battery electric vehicles will be within short ranges, like in cities, city cars, and with fuel cell cars you can get in longer ranges?
That is one possible scenario, as long as there will be no technology breakthrough in the battery area. We will have ranges around, let's say, 200 kilometers. So the customer needs to decide finally if he is confident with that just in the city, or if he is confident enough to drive through Germany and find the corresponding fast charging infrastructure.
That's one thing, yes.
Or he decides for the fuel cell electric vehicle with, let's say, greater than 500 kilometers range. So that's actually what the cars deliver, and finally the customer will decide if batteries stay in the cities or not.
Mr. Schnell, you are chairman of the Clean Energy Partnership, as I said, and it was founded in 2002. It is the largest demonstration project of hydrogen-based technology in Europe. But who needs demonstration projects anymore? Tell us.
I think demonstration project is also yet very important, because in this phase we had a very big challenge. It was a switch between 350 and 700 bar. And so we show that it's possible, and we make a lot of improvement in this time. But we have also to make other improvements to go in the commercialization. For example, for the refueling station, you have to increase the availability of the station, and also you have to solve the problem of metrology. And also we have to find a common view of the quality of hydrogen we will sell on the nozzle. So we will need the rest of the CP time to solve all of these problems, and with H2 mobility to go in a commercial way for the refueling of station. And it's the same for the car.
the list of the partners in the Clean Energy Partnership is quite impressive. I just tell you, BMW, Daimler, there's Ford, GM, Opel, Honda, Toyota, Volkswagen, also Air Liquide, Linde, Shell, Statoil, Total, Vattenfall, and 2 public transport companies. I think together they have the economic strength of Switzerland or rather Germany. What would you think?
I cannot tell you it.
but they're quite impressive indeed. Yeah. So, but still, you're on a state together to say, well, we have to prove the technology is really working. Yeah. You're not ready for market yet, or are you ready for market?
I think we will be ready for market at the end of the CEP, and also the step of the 50 station will be very important. But I think Markus will tell you a little bit more what we want to do with the 50 station program.
Yeah, we come to that later on. It's just about the Clean Energy Partnership. Mr. Brachmann, Honda is part of the CEP. Yes. And you have built the FCX Clarity. You can drive them just outside the hall on our ride and drive area. You can have a demonstration ride there. You're presenting also your first FCEV concept car here in Germany, first time in Germany, which is quite impressive. A lot of people taking a picture of that. But there's no way to buy a fuel cell car, not from Honda, not from any other OEM else. Why is that so?
Yeah, I think first of all, thank you very much for the invitation today. I think first of all, we have to say that related to the production volume, the volume is rather small. So that also means that the investment is rather high, so the initial cost for each single unit is very high. So that's something the customer cannot afford, so we have to work on leasing programs, depending on funding and so on and so forth. But the second major reason is that we are trying very much to reduce the cost further and further and further. And as Mr. Foucault, one of our directors, already said, with the relationship between Honda and General Motors, we are targeting definitely for mass volume from 2020 onwards. Nevertheless, in between, we want to showcase technology and also the progress, and therefore it's very much necessary to have such kind of demonstration projects. Related to the cost, another issue, yes, we are offering these vehicles on a leasing base. But if you would sell the cars, you as an OEM have to take care that you deliver all the spare parts over the next 10, 15, 20 years to the customers who initially bought these cars. And that makes it rather difficult. Why to introduce or why to continuously produce an outdated technology, because we are progressing rapidly also in the fuel cell, stack development especially, just to serve these customers. So we prefer a leasing rate where we have a vehicle project existing, program existing, then we finalize that, and then we start with the latest technology in order to make every potential future customer more happy than just for an outdated vehicle.
And you need some refueling stations out there. Mr. Bachmeier, I've looked at the web page of Clean Energy Partnership, and I could only find 12 public open fuel cell refueling, hydrogen refueling stations in Germany. This is not enough to convince me to buy a fuel cell car, actually.
Well, I couldn't agree more. That's the reason why we are going to build more of these. And the partners in the Clean Energy Partnership have decided and also got funding approvals from the German government to increase that number of 15 stations up to 50. 15 to 50 over the course of the next year, next 1.5, next 2 years. 50 stations again. In a year's time, you may be sitting here and say, "Hey, Markus, 50 stations doesn't really convince me." But when you look at 50 stations, at least those stations will be partly put into the large cities, in order to give 2, 3, 4, 5 stations to large cities like Berlin, like Hamburg, like Frankfurt, like Stuttgart. Like Düsseldorf, and they will also be put across the Autobahn, across the interstate highways between those cities. So 50 stations will mean that when you have a hydrogen car, you can drive to pretty much every town, every city in this country and get back to a fueling station safely. So this will be a first very basic coverage of the country. And I think if we manage to do that in that time, it'll be the first country where you have really a first basic nationwide coverage with hydrogen stations. And I think this will be more than a small achievement.
But we have to tell that it was in June 2012, that's almost 2 years ago, that you decided, or you agreed, CEP agreed with the former Federal Transport Minister Peter Ramsauer to build these 50 hydrogen refueling stations. At that time there were 15, today there are only 12, so what's the direction going to?
Honestly, we've discussed these numbers. I would know one that has gone out of service. But there are others that are being built at the moment. I have no doubt that those 50 will be here in that time frame, or maybe a little bit later.
But what happened in the 2 years since then?
There are stations, demo stations, that have been really worn and that have reached their lifetime, and that where it was best to take them out of service, because those other 35 stations will come in.
Okay, Mr. Herbert. So what did you do the 2 years?
Yeah. So a lot of things happened. As you might have heard today in our press release, and also in the press release from the CEP, we say that we now finalized the locations for the 50 stations. That was a very ambitious task we all had to do. Please keep in mind that we have 2 different oil companies, 3 different technology suppliers, and we need to figure out where do we place them. And as Mr. Bachmeier said, that also needed to be very thoughtful, because we aim for that first coverage, and therefore that was a very hard task, really, to jointly come now to these locations we agreed on, where we want to realize the stations now, and that is one thing. So finalizing the locations so that we can start realization now. The second thing was also, as we are in a funding program, the partners needed to do the administrative funding applications, which is actually the final commitment that they will finance the other 50% of the project. And a third thing I would like to mention is that we set up a concept of an accompanying study for these 50 stations, together with the partners, where we have a third party evaluating the technology over the next 2 years in these stations. So a lot of things happened. We all, I think, didn't expect that this location finalization would really take so long, but there were several reasons. Maybe one or the other, Patrick or Mr. Bachmeier, can say a few words to that. That was really longer than we expected.
Okay, Mr. Schnell, we have 20 months to go, so I can expect every 2 weeks another opening of a refueling station. Or will you all then open up in December 2015?
No, I think you will see in 2014 between 15 and 20 stations. 2 are building now and will be open soon, and other one are in preparation, or we are asking for the permit. So it's sure that this summer you will have a lot of opening, and we are working very hard to open the rest of the station next year, so soon as possible.
Okay, Mr. Bachmeier, end of 2015 we will have this 50 publicly available refueling station. You're pretty sure about that, yes?
That's what we're all aiming for.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, aiming for and getting it is a different thing. But okay, what were the criteria where you planned the final place of the stations? What were the criteria for you?
So that was done together with the oil companies,
yeah,
who run already those conventional stations, together with NOW, to make sure that the stations that come from different suppliers are spread in a very meaningful way across those cities and between those cities. And of course, within the cities, along the highways, then it's really the core fundamental expertise of the oil companies who really select the final location of those stations.
So they will be along the highways.
Some
The
will be along
outlets.
the highways,
Yeah.
but the majority of them will be in the large metropolitan areas.
Okay, so it's important, like say, if you go from Hamburg to Düsseldorf, you have one in Hamburg already, you have one in Düsseldorf already, you need one in at least in Bremen and maybe another one in Dortmund or something.
There will be one or two in between.
Okay.
So again, you can drive pretty much to every place in the country.
Which is quite nice. I think the eastern countries of Germany have not so many stations planned, or have they?
It's again, one of the things that really drives where you should put the stations is population and traffic density. And when you look at the population density in Germany, it's Berlin, of course, but then it's no matter whether you call it the half moon or something else, it's really the area from Hamburg, then Düsseldorf, Cologne, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, Munich. That crescent-shaped area is where the majority of the people lives, and where accordingly the majority of the stations should be built in order to be able to cover as many people as possible with those first 50 stations.
It will be also this part of Germany will be the first market. So it's a little bit the big cities are the CP region, Berlin, Hamburg, NRW, Baden-Württemberg, and like Markus said, we pick some position between to build a station between these regions that the cars can drive from one to the other region.
And
Herbert,
actually, just to visualize, we included maps also in our press release and in our annual report, which you can get at our booth, NOW booth. So there's really a map, a visualization of what we are aiming for, and that is there. It becomes quite obvious how it finally can look
I
like.
can show it to you, and on the booth of CEP,
Yeah,
you can
and
see
then
it there as
there
well.
also,
There, where I
right.
counted the 12 publicly open fueling station already open now. So very good. Any questions from your side? So just raise your hand. I'll come with the microphone right to you. Yes, that's the first question here. If you just introduce yourself, please.
My name is Tae-Hoon Yang, coming from Seoul, Korea, and working for McKinsey. I'm studying on this hydrogen economy moving forward. One question I have is that the fuel cell recharging stations, are they based on the reforming, or is it going to be the renewable energy sources? And if it's going to be a renewable energy, then do you plan to have it on site, or do you plan to distribute it from major power plants?
Thank you very much for that question. That goes to Mr. Bachmeier.
First, in the CP, we have a clear commitment to have 50% of our hydrogen from renewable energy, and we are convinced that renewable energy or the hydrogen from renewable energy will be the future in Germany. So it's clear focused on this pathway. But for the start, we will also need normal hydrogen or hydrogen from
The chemical
chemical product. And I think in the 50 station we will have a lot of different concepts, but a lot focused on renewable energy.
Mr. Bachmeier, a lot of the hydrogen you will provide, won't you? So will they produce with renewables or not?
Yes. Again, for the 50 overall, that 50% rule applies to us as well. But 20 out of those 50 stations will be invested by Daimler, 10 by Daimler, 10 by Linde. And for those 20 stations, we have made a commitment that those 20 stations will be delivered by fully renewable hydrogen. This could be biogas going into a conventional steam reformer. This could be hydrogen from electrolysis with wind energy or photovoltaics or other renewable sources. Because we think that is a really important aspect. The other question you asked about is how much of that will be on-site. For the first stations, we expect relatively few on-site production capabilities. One is for cost reasons, and the other one is also for space reasons. Because what we see is with those 50 stations is that you can build 10 or 15 or 12 demo stations. But when you want to build that many stations, you realize very, very quickly that space at these stations is very, very expensive, especially if you go into urban areas. So it really boils down to the real estate value, whether or not you want to put on-site generation there. That's one of the things which we have to watch very carefully. And the other thing is also its approval. Because if you put production facilities, even if they are relatively small, in the center of a city, the approval processes are much more complicated, much more tedious than when you truck in renewable hydrogen from somewhere outside.
We have another question from the audience.
Thank you. My name is Martin Ostrid, and there's another question. I came from the southern from Germany, and we have very small towns there at the border to Austria, and we have since 1 year the discussion. Can we at the end of A7 a fill station with an electrolyzer? In the next station was now Bozen. On this reason, we have a chance to go from southern Tyrol to Stuttgart and Germany. The question was, have a small area with not so big population, a chance to get a fill station with no Total and so far?
Thank you very much. Yeah, this gentleman is from the south of Germany, and I've seen there's one refueling station. I think it's in Singen, but it must be near the Bodensee,
So,
isn't it?
so actually, if I got it right, you are from southern Germany, close to the
Füssen.
Austrian border.
Füssen?
So, and if you have a chance to somehow get a station now or in the next 2 or 3 years.
Obviously, there's nothing planned. I just show you the map in that area, if you have a look at it. But maybe in the next step. So we will see some more of that later
Definitely.
on.
So Mr. Bachmeier pointed out the.
In this area, there's nothing planned actually. Indeed, yeah.
Mr. Bachmeier pointed out the criteria that we put together, and that's how we came up with those dots on that map there. As of this area, I think what we had in mind is to have Munich as a city, and then, as you might have heard, we have this large European project coming up,
right?
Where we will have a station in Innsbruck, and in that step now with the 50 stations and the quite small amount of stations in the European partner countries, that is enough. Also looking at the 500 kilometers range, so we assume that you can drive from Munich to Innsbruck and use those stations without having one in between additionally.
Mr. Brachmann, you have just been 3 days ago to London, and you agreed on this High Five project, a European initiative to implement 6 new hydrogen refueling stations in Europe, plus 110 fuel cell cars. Another demonstration project. One more, I could say. But there will be one of these refueling stations in Innsbruck. Where are the others?
Yeah. So we already have heard that there are very good reasons why another demonstration project, or why demonstration projects in general. And we are very happy that we have been successful to finally get the approval from the FCH-JU to run this project, which is called High Five. It's consisting of 15 partners. Part of these partners are the same as in Clean Energy Partnership. And of course, we, especially as OEMs, as car manufacturers, we have an interest to broaden, let's say, the hydrogen refueling station network, because our customers, unfortunately, do not stick to one city only. They want to go from A to B, and A to B means also from, for example, Füssen up to London or even Copenhagen, and therefore we have an interest in these projects. The charming thing about High Five is that, as it was already mentioned by Thorsten Herbert, that we have been able to propose the southern region. The southern region means the connection between Stuttgart, Munich, then Innsbruck with a new station, and Bolzano. Because of the topography, which is very interesting and relevant for fuel cell electric vehicles, in order to, let's say, get an image about the range capabilities, even if you go up and downhill. to the question the gentleman rose, I have to say, internally I propose to have one station close to Füssen because you still use the Fernpass very much in order to avoid cost and payments for, let's say, the highway network in Austria, and that's a very convenient location. But maybe in the near future that might happen. You just have to approach the relevant people, or please discuss with Linde, OMV, or any other mineral oil company. I could just encourage you. And the other demonstration project is very important for us because also other countries have certain desires. And also United Kingdom as one of the prime candidates in High Five. London City has an intention to become also carbon free over time. So they have a huge interest in increasing the number of fuel cell electric vehicles in the city. And that's why this is the other part of the High Five project. And then we have heard already Denmark. They also receive 2 further stations, and there we can then also supply our cars to, because just one station in Copenhagen allows you to drive around Copenhagen, but does not give you the freedom to really go to Germany. And with the new stations, there's a possibility to do so.
But there's no competition between the High Five program and the CEP, is it?
I'm a car manufacturer. I'm happy about any expansion of the network.
Sure.
And we also can learn from each other, which is very important.
Yeah.
So from the, let's say, technical expertise we have generated in Clean Energy Partnership, we are very often frequented by other projects. How is the status? What about hydrogen quality? What is standardization on hydrogen refueling stations? How can we generate backups? What are the costs? And that is very important to communicate. In High Five, though, we are looking in the process how to generate customers. Because we are looking for customers and we have enthusiasts. They are jumping on the cars. But the more cars you have, the more customers you also have rejecting the car because of this and this and this disadvantage. And we have to overcome that and explain.
Yeah.
And therefore we need this expansion of the entire hydrogen refueling station network and the car fleet.
We even need even more of these projects.
Yes, please.
I think it's very important to have such projects that like High Five, because CP is only for Germany, and we need to have this link to other country. And we spoke about the station in Bozen, and it's High Five will be have the opportunity to have to make a station in Innsbruck, and so also to the people to drive from Munich to Bozen. And I'm sure that also in the next years you will be have a station near to Füssen, so also that the people can drive from Ulm to Bozen, because in the 50 station we want to build a station near Ulm, and so also at the A7 you will have the possibility to drive with fuel cells cars, and in the next step sure that Füssen could be a very interesting place. But for the 50 station, we had other criteria, and it's I think perhaps in the next 10 or 20 station we will see Füssen will be one of the places.
I think so.
Yeah, I would like to underline what Patrick said with regards to how it fits in the overall picture. It perfectly matches, I think, the strategy we have with being one of the forerunners with regards to hydrogen infrastructure in Germany. Of course, we need to make sure, together with the partners, that the neighboring countries also get started, and that's a perfect step, and that's a perfect role also the European program can play in the future. Really, adding stations close to Germany, so that as Germany as kind of a core to really extend the hydrogen infrastructure over Germany. And a second point I would like to make also, I hope that a lot of those 110 cars also drive through Germany finally, and that means more customers for the CEP stations, and more experiences with regards to refueling at the CEP stations with that.
Are they planned for London or for Innsbruck or for Copenhagen?
Well, the majority of cars will go to definitely London in this sense. It is almost an equal split between Copenhagen and the southern cluster. In High Five, then I have to name the OEMs, then it makes more sense for you to understand. We have BMW, we have Daimler, we have Honda, Hyundai and Toyota in. So for Hyundai and Honda, home region is Frankfurt, but this time we said it's okay. We prefer London and Copenhagen because we are a small importer in Europe. But for Daimler and BMW, obviously, it's Stuttgart, Munich, very important. And then we said, yes, we agreed to the southern region as well, where also our competition OEM, we are in the pre-competition phase, Hyundai will also deliver some cars too. So there is also a share coming to Germany, definitely. And as Mr. Herbert said, yes, we will surely cross the country, which is very important. And I also would like to emphasize that if we talk about funding, it's not 100% funding. So there is still a huge contribution from industry. And this should really demonstrate the effort behind, because all the industries are not focusing only on one country, but have the true desire to make it reality in total Europe. And that's very important.
But it could be an argument for Honda to say, well, if you have 50 refueling stations in Germany by 2015, at least 2016, we could bring the FCX clarity on market, on broad market. Why not? Because everybody can go everywhere.
That's a very good idea. If you would have a market share more than 1%, that is great. So we still have 1% only, and so our customers will be limited. That's the other issue. We have to generate the customers. They need to be educated.
Like Toyota did with their hybrids. Oh, maybe a good idea.
You mean like Honda did with the hybrids?
Okay, yeah, Honda as well. You're right. Sorry for that.
No, yeah, I mean, we made the experience. Everyone bringing alternative technology to the market takes its time. We have this, unfortunately, let's say, crazy curvature where we are a long time in the negative profit area. And sales regions have to really compensate for that. It's sometimes difficult. That's why it's easier for Honda to do this in the United States. Nevertheless, we are committed to Europe, and we bring the cars to here.
Very good. Important question is, Mr. Schnell, at what pressure will you offer the hydrogen at these 50 refueling stations?
Will be all the station will be have 700 bar.
700. So they wouldn't even fit for your FCX clarities. You need 350 bar.
So the FCX Clarity is a product that has been launched 2008, and at that time in US 350 bar was appropriate. So that we had a hidden change over to 700 bar has various reasons, but nevertheless both pressures are technologically okay, we can use them. For the Clarities, as you said, in Germany it's more limited in terms of hydrogen refueling stations, but the next generation car coming in 2015 will have also 700 bar. So by that, the new car will have
so
no
that
negative
is clear.
effect.
It will go to 700 bar for all cars probably. For most
At the
of
moment,
them.
yes. Yeah.
At the moment, yes. Mr. Herbert, but to be honest, we will see fuel cell cars within the next, let's say, 5 to 8 years, only in big cities like Hamburg and Berlin, and we will see fleets maybe, but not in every single little town like Füssen or somewhere else. Probably not, or will we?
So again, that's maybe a question the car OEMs could answer, but obviously we have a reason for why we selected those locations in the big cities, and we are in close cooperation within the CEP between the OEMs and the infrastructure providers, and they really, especially in that high risk phase at the moment, we have close discussions between OEMs and infrastructure providers really to decide where to go first, to do smart decisions where to go first, and that was the result. And yes, it looks like that we will start from the big cities, where also obviously the fleet customers are located in most cases, and that's why we also set up the 50 station locations as they are at the moment.
Yeah, as it was said. So we did not play dart with the German map. Yeah, there is some substance behind why we have chosen this and these locations. We need people enthusiastic about the technology. We have a group of people made some of these learnings in Hamburg, Berlin, and we expect the most of the customers there. But in order to really have a good network, we have decided on the locations as they are now, and they are pretty okay for almost all OEMs. That should be clear.
And you will be have any very small city like Geiselwind, or between Frankfurt and Nuremberg, and like Neuruppin between Berlin and Hamburg. So you will be also have, I think, 5 or 6 very small city. So if you want to buy a house in the city, please.
Okay, I'm living in Braunschweig. Maybe we see a filling station in Hanover.
One also near to Braunschweig.
Okay,
Maybe
very
you should
good.
contact the people in Wolfsburg.
I should do indeed. Yes, they should build one there. Indeed. Okay. Are there any other questions from your side? And just raise your hand. Be with the microphone right with you. If not, well, this one thing I'm always thinking about. This question goes to Mr. Schnell again. I think everybody wants its own infrastructure. Hydrogen at 350 bar, then at 700 bar, then liquefied hydrogen, maybe not anymore. But electricity, LPG, CNG, even they're talking about LNG. You know, you can't fulfill all dreams, can you? You have to decide on one more infrastructure. You can't build up 5 infrastructure or so.
Yes and no. It's sure that at the end the best is to have only one fuel, but we know that the future will be not more simple but more complicated, and it's sure that we will go in a direction that any user or any segment of cars or trucks will be need special fuels like LNG for truck. So the problem will be to select the right sites. That the sites we will propose hydrogen or we will propose LNG as the right sites for this application, and the customer will use a station. And if the customer uses a station and you will be get a profit, it's okay. The diversity, I think, will become. But it will be not easy to find the right sites, and we see that with the 50 station, it's also a discussion very close to the OEMs. Also for LNG, it's clear that it's meant only sense near to the harbor. We will have LNG. We didn't think about to have an LNG station in Munich. Because you didn't have LNG in the south of Germany, so you have to have clear concept, and not only a concept as a oil company. You have to share the concept, and you have to work hands in hands, like we do that in the CAP, and like we want to do that in H2 Mobility.
Mr. Herbert, bitte.
Yeah, I think it comes back to your first question again. I don't think that we have the luxury to pick one, really to fulfill the goals we have with regards to climate change and so on. These overarching goals, we don't have the luxury to pick. And you have to keep in mind that, as Patrick said, we have to deal with different carriers. So we have trucks, we didn't talk about. We have ships where the liquid gas is very with a high potential to reduce carbon emissions. So I don't think we have the luxury to pick one winner.
So that would be nice. Everything else
It
very
would be
costly,
the cheapest
indeed.
solution. Actually.
Mr. Bachmeier, last question to you. Linde has experience with a mobile hydrogen filling station, and you can visit it just outside Hall 27. You can see it at the Ride and Drive area, but they are only for demonstration purposes. How do you plan them in series?
Well, again, when you look at the price and the price at the cost and at the value those installations provide, yes, these are very meaningful applications. For example, when you have a 1 week or 2 week or 4 week event like here, we use it, for example, for companies who want to test forklift trucks with hydrogen for 2 weeks or 4 weeks on their premises in their plants. Then it's really an ideal application. This truck has also been used last year. Some of you may have seen that. Last year was the 100th anniversary of Aston Martin, and in order to celebrate that, they built a race car that ran on hydrogen, and they raced it at the 24-hour race at Nürburgring, and they built that car in a very short time, and they finished the race successfully, and it was filled by that trailer again. So we are very proud to have that. But again, when it comes to commercial hydrogen, when it comes to the everyday customer,
You need stationary.
I think stationary is good. Because imagine you drive to such a trailer today and tomorrow it's gone. How would you react as a customer? What could be feasible, of course, in the next couple of years is, as long as the network is not fully fledged, that you have small stations that are transportable. They probably wouldn't have wheels, but they would be containerized. And as soon as demand picks up, you could shift that to a smaller city, for example, and build a bigger station in that place. But we don't expect trailers with wheels on like that to be a big part of the stations out there.
Good solution indeed. We are running out of time, unfortunately. I would like to offer you all a visit to the booth of the Clean Energy Partnership at B73, just behind you on your left-hand side. And please also visit the Ride and Drive area, outdoor area, where you can do a test drive with the Clean Energy Partnership with cars from Daimler, from Honda, from Hyundai and Toyota, and you can test it there directly. I would like to thank you very much for the talk here on stage. I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.